Hello pianists, this is part 2 of how to play the Minuet in G major from the Anna Magdalena Bach notebook with proper wrist circles and techniques so you can have ease and expression in your playing. If you've never played this piece before, please go look at part 1 where I go through my Bronson musical learning pyramid and I carefully teach you how to practice and learn the rhythm, the note reading and the fingering, the articulations with all those slur lifts, the dynamics, and the style and mood. It's essential to be able to use proper technique to actually bring off the Minuet style. So in this tutorial, I'm going to show you where and how to add wrist circles to make beautiful legato lines. Also how to use the strength of the arm weight to bring out dynamic phrase goals. If you only use your fingers, it'll be very weak and shallow sound versus the arm weight. There's also a few spots where we'll use some forearm rotation, and I'll show you how to use some arm weight drops for 2-note slurs. All using the strength of our arm. If you've never done this before, you can also check out my Hanon tutorials where I teach you wrist circles, forearm rotation, and number 2, which combines those, which this piece will use as well. Within part 1, I taught you about the polyphony of the lines, meaning that the right hand and the left hand are pretty unique from one another, rather than the homophony of just a melody over an accompaniment. So accordingly, using technique is going to help you be able to play the polyphony by grouping notes together within this technique. If you group the notes together thinking your scales, rhythmic patterns, and your technique, you'll be able to think larger chunks of notes and look ahead and trust what your hands are doing. If as a beginner you think note by note, you're going to get pretty overwhelmed to be able to look ahead and think all of your slur lifts. To guide your process through this, I'm going to demonstrate throughout this tutorial very slow hand separate so you can watch and pause and try it out yourself. But you can also find within the description a fully notated score showing where you're supposed to go under and over or left or right for that forearm rotation. So let's get started. Alright, before I show you exactly how to add that within the Minuet, just let me give you some friendly reminders of when to apply under and over wrist circle. Whenever we're going away from the body, if we think like a G5 finger scale, we're going to scoop under. That way our arms are aligned behind the 5, over as you go towards the body. The polyphony of this piece is going to be having the hands move at different directions. Under versus over. You practice hand in number 1. An excellent tutorial to practice that opposite directions. We're going to practice some hands separate, automatize it before you go back to putting hands together. So let's get started on the right hand, which is the most pattern. I'm going to try to keep this in slow motion, and you can pause it even like phrase by phrase and practice this along with me. So we're going to start with our right hand as an over motion, under, scoop under, over. And remember at measure 2, beats 2 and 3, this was the plie or that light bending for the dancers. So we want it to be light with our thumb. So you have to keep that thumb tall. Don't use your arm weight coming down. We'll use that for phrase goals, but not at light parts of the phrase. Tall thumb, over, under, over, light thumb. And notice when I extend back down, I don't stay out within an octave. On that octave, when I extend down, bring your hands back into a natural 5-finger scale position. Measure 5 is under, over, lift, over, lift, under, over, down. And at those phrase goals, even though I'm going over, I'm going to drop with a nice heavy arm weight. Measure 9 repeats, over, under, over, tall light thumb, over, under, light thumb, under, over, lift, over, under. Nice tall thumb at the ends of those phrases. So I still use wrist circles. Wherever I have a phrase go, like at 13, I feel heavier down, light, heavier down, down. So by down, I mean you're actually depressing a little bit heavier down into the keys, and I drop a little bit lower than this. So I could have a high wrist, medium, or even down. So it's your phrase goals. This will be depressed a little bit lower, so you've got that full arm weight dropping. Use that leverage dropping from your elbow. Okay, let's go to measure 17 on the right hand. I'm going to jump up here to this B. Over, lift, under, over, rotate, left, right, left. For this scale, notice I'm going to start with the phrase goal, so I'm going to start lower with my wrist, but I'm going to scoop up higher, go into a level wrist after that, down, keep it nice and level, down, roll off,
down roll, off, up, down, 2, 3, down roll over, little rotation there, going to the left, to the right, over, over, under, off, scoop, down, level wrists, down, up, under, over. And at the end, you can just come down with a nice arm weight, or you can roll it, which makes it even gentler at the end of that chord. All right, pianists, let's next go into the left hand. It's a little bit more simple because it's just slower rhythms, but you can follow along on the notation with our G chord. As I go towards my body, over motion, lift for the slur, under, 2, 3. 2-note slurs would be more, less, more, 2, 3, less, 2, 3. Under, just nice detached, left, right, under, over, lift, under, over, light, roll it under, back over, scoop under, over there, under, over, detached, arm weight down for that cadence. Measure 17 starts on a G. We go under, 1, 2, 3, light, 2, 3, over, detached, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, over, down, up, light, under, down, roll it over, under, over, 2, 3, down, roll it over, under, down, all detached. So you notice when I'm playing detached, it's fairly just a level and light wrist. I'm not coming down very heavy. I use that arm weight to come down at the starts of 2-note slurs. Let's go back to measure 22 where you can practice that. Down, up, down. You feel like you're rolling towards the fall board. Down, roll forward. Scoop it under. All right, pianists, so practice that hand separate first, get it faster to automatize those groupings of notes. It's actually going to help your note reading to come along much more quickly if you add the choreography so you remember physically how it feels. And then when you go to put it back hands together, I'd mentioned it's like those Hanon techniques. Even though notes are moving in the same direction, those parallel intervals we talked about in part 1, the wrist direction will be opposite. So really automatize it separately. Here we go from the beginning. Notice they're opposite. Both go under here. Both together, down, up, down, up, down. Roll over towards one another, opposite directions. Down, under. You'll notice that as you get your tempo faster and faster, these motions become much smaller and inefficient. So even as you watch my demonstration, you're not going to see as much as you do when I practice it slower. And that's perfectly fine and acceptable, but it's still trained within your body. So you're using your arm weight all the way through. So have fun learning this minuet and using these wrist circles and forearm rotation to add groups of notes to help your sight reading, your hand independent skills. And then you can transfer this to your other favorite pieces. You can check out a tutorial or do the Beethoven écossaise with also using wrist circles. Enjoy your practicing.